Good afternoon, all. Welcome to today's Cancer Healing Journey Talks. Myself, Annie Jose from Community Outreach Team of ZenOnco.io and Love Heals Cancer. Cancer Healing Journey Talks helps cancer survivors and caregivers to share their journey with vast number of survivors and caregivers who have traveled or been traveling through this journey. This can inspire and motivate them for their faster recovery as well. I would like to introduce today's speaker, Prakshi Saraswat. She is an endometrial cancer survivor. Welcome to today's session, Prakshi. Over to you.
Hello, Annie. Good afternoon. Hi, all. Very happy to be here. Like Annie said, I am an endometrial cancer survivor, and today I'll be speaking about my journey on how this ordeal has been for me, how have people have helped me come out of this, and now I'm looking forward to my usual life, looking forward to many good things. So I'll be talking all about that. So yeah.
All right. So what were the symptoms and how was it diagnosed?
Okay, so this diagnosis happened last year in November, November 13th. So my birthday is on 15th, so just a day before my birthday, I just got to know that it was actually cancer. So my symptoms were, I think about last 2 years, I was having on and off, I was having heavy periods, and just spotting in between the periods. But whenever I used to go to the doctor or discuss it with my friends, they would just say that it's normal since you are like 29ish, and it's normal for females to have heavy periods. And even the doctors didn't suspect anything that it could be something as serious as cancer, considering my age. They just said that it's hormonal imbalance, and have a good diet, keep exercising, sleep schedule, just monitor that. All of that was happening. So I think for about 1.5 years, I didn't really pay attention to my symptoms. And then I did take some vitamin B12s or vitamin D, because you work in offices, so obviously these parameters are not it hits everybody. So that was happening. I took some vitamins here and there. I started exercise, like I exercised, eat healthy, all of that, that pattern I followed. But during the lockdown, when all of us kind of returned back home, and there was a lot of sitting happening, long working hours, all of that was happening. So I think my symptoms started worsening, and I had like extremely heavy periods with the clots, like huge clots, and the periods would run through 10 days. And that's when I thought that something is really off with my body. And I also developed anemia, and my hemoglobin went down to about, I think, 5 or 6. So that was very unusual for me. I would feel very tired, and not able to sit, concentrate at work, feeling dizzy. So all of that started happening by, I think, August of 2020. So that's when I thought that this needed checkup. So I went into the doctor, and they did like an abdomen ultrasound. And when they found that the uterus lining was really thick, in my case it was about 17.9 mm, which is unusually thick for for a person. So they said that there is also a small fibroid, or polyp that I have about 1 centimeters, which they also said that it's normal for females of my age to have that fibroid or polyp. So they said that they would do like a small 15-minute procedure, and they'll just remove it so that my periods don't get heavy, and they'll just clean the uterus lining somehow. So okay, I was unsuspecting, and this was August, and right after I got COVID, and this got delayed. So I got COVID. It took about 1.5 months for me to feel better. Then I again went in for a checkup and said that, okay, now let's treat this fibroid, this polyp that you were talking of. And then they did this small procedure called hysterectomy, on which they removed the tumor or the polyp that they said, and that was sent for biopsy, just to make sure that there is nothing off about it. And they sent it for biopsy. And unfortunately, this was in November, first week. Unfortunately, after 2 weeks, they tell me that this is actually endometrioid carcinoma. And I think it was the most, I don't know, it was really life changing, because I was also planning for other things in my life. I was planning to get married, and I was in a different zone, so moving into a new place, looking forward to just being with my partner, getting married, all of that was happening. But suddenly then you hear this cancer word in your life, and yes, life changed after that, honestly. And I was then, they weren't sure, they said that the reports could also be false. So they suggested that I go on to different doctors and just figure out that if it's actually cancer or not, because their idea was that nobody of such young age gets endometrial cancer. So this is the biggest, I think, lie which even the doctors are realizing now, that uterine or ovarian cancer or any kind of gynecological cancer is not age related. It's happening to young people also. And even now when I go to doctors for checkups, the initial reaction is, how old are you? And it's unlikely that you would have endometrial cancer. Manika, no, I did have endometrial cancer. So that's a very important learning for doctors as well, I think, from my case. So yeah, I mean, then I just went in for some tests. So we ran some PET scans, and we did some, blood tests, your cancer markers, CA125, all of that. I sent my reports across to 10 big hospitals across the country to make sure that if it is the correct report or not. My biopsies were sent, my reports were sent. A lot of big hospitals, Kokilaben, Apollo, Max, some radiologists in London. I have some family friends. The report was also sent to the in some tumor board in America, just to, because I was pretty young and I am not married. I don't have kids. So the doctors were really shook, actually, considering that, it was a life-changing decision. I mean, removing your uterus, considering that I wanted to have children at some point. It was a shock, honestly, for my family as well. And even the doctors, they wanted to make sure that what they're doing is correct. So there was a thorough study of my reports. It took about 1.5 months of, just going to various doctors, because it was COVID time. I had to book a lot of online sessions and figure out all of this within a span of like 1 month. And ultimately what they said was that the removal of the uterus was necessary. And I just happened to reach out to this doctor called Mr. Archit Pandit. He is an associate director at the Max Cancer Institute. And it just so happened that it just clicked. While I was talking to a lot of doctors, I thought that he was the person. I think when something as serious as cancer, it's not just the expertise, but you also need some kind of empathy from the doctor, somebody who understands, somebody who's patient with you. So I thought that Dr. Archit was the person. I mean, he gave me personal attention. He reviewed my reports thoroughly again. And yeah, I mean, I could see that he can be my treating doctor. And I absolutely went ahead with him. So yes, they performed a radical hysterectomy on me on 28th December last year. So which means the removal of your uterus, and the whole procedure also includes something called bilateral oophorectomy, which means the removal of your ovaries as well. So they do it so that they remove all the chances of cancer reoccurring. So it's called radical hysterectomy. So all your fallopian tubes, your ovaries, your uterus, everything is removed, including the cervix. And they also take out some lymph nodes to check the spread, etc. Thankfully, in my case, everything came out negative, and it was just restricted to the uterus. So that was my only treatment. And I do have some side effects of the surgery, because I've been put into medical menopause now. And so all the menopause related side effects, like hot flashes, your joint aches here and there, and mood swings, all of that is happening. But I think I'm doing a good job of managing them as well. So that's been my journey. It's been honestly a very, very life-changing experience. There is always a fear of, reoccurrence in your head, and there's always a fear of, yeah, I mean, as how much soever you try to like stay positive about it, but there is of course a lot of I think cancer induces a kind of fear in your head. But what I have learned through my journey is that, it just makes you take life as a very special, look at life in a very special, from a very special lens. I think now you like really begin to appreciate even the smallest of things. And I've been very grateful that I have extremely supportive parents. I mean, I lost my relationship. I mean, not that I want to actively talk about it, but yes, I only want to ensure that people get to know that, fertility is a very, I think I'd say fertility is a very, uh, uh, it's looked down upon, if somebody just cannot give birth, not because of cancer, for any reason. I think females are just subjected to their such bland treatment. I don't know how to put it, but it's extremely difficult, just because you lost your ability to bear children for anyone. You are just like you're treated in a very not important way, which was something that I want to speak about. uh, Cancer does not, like, it really doesn't discriminate. It can happen to just anybody. But yes, families need to understand that a person can be much more than just, their ovaries or their uterus or just their ability to produce children. A relation People should understand that relationships go beyond certain, xyz expectations. This can happen to anyone. It just, my story, it's been crazy, honestly, even if it almost feels like it coming out of a Bollywood movie. But I have learned a lot. I've changed as a person. I was always empathetic, but even now I'm more considerate now, and I want to speak more about this whole thing. I want to educate parents to let their girls go for checkups, because what I've learned is that when you are of a marriageable age, so-called marriageable age or childbearing age, as they say in the medical, medical terminology, is just that parents don't let their children or their girls, speak about their health issues. Or because period related problems are very common, but many of the, like, most of the people would dismiss it. They would not allow, especially if you are like in, you're about to get married, they want to hide things. They're saying ki, don't tell about your PCODs. I've heard like a lot of people message me saying that, they told about the PCOD issues to the boyfriend or the husband to be or whoever, and then they just declined, or they just let go of the relationship because they thought that they would not be able to produce children for them. So stuff like that. I mean, had I not pushed for my own checkup, or had my parents not kind of allowed me to, first of all, I mean, I don't think I'm 29. I think I have a right over my body and go get it checked. So that was there. But I have seen a lot of pushback from parents generally in India, talking about gynecological issues and not letting their children, or the girls, the boys, whoever, go for checkups, because our society is like that. Sorry to say, but our society is like that. You are really, marriage is mostly about producing kids, and it's like a generational thing that they have in mind, that taking forward the generation and all of that. So I think that's important. Had I not gone on time, I think my case would have worsened, and I would have uh, been in a much worse situation, honestly. So I would like to say to all the girls, all the parents, the society, please do not like shame people for having issues and going to the doctor for checkups. Do not judge girls just because they have some issues. I mean, it's all biology at the end of the day, and it can just go haywire. So it's important that we go for regular checkups. It's important that we listen to our bodies. It's important that we support such conditions. And I think it's a very rare thing, I think. But to actually provide that kind of support, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of positive mindset, and constantly reminding yourself that you're much more than just, just your uterus or just your ovaries. So you're just human, to begin with. And you can add so much more value to life. If God has taken something, I think you definitely have something more to offer to the world. So I look at life from that perspective, and yes, that's how it has been. And I think when you meet, when you go to a cancer hospital, for example, what has really helped me is I never question that why it was me. I just take it as it could have happened to anybody. It could have happened to me like 10 years down the line, and or maybe earlier, so I never question, because I see a lot of resilience when I go to a cancer hospital, and you see so many, old people coming together for treatments. You see small children. So I think I gain my strength from there, and I still go for my checkups alone, and sometimes my friends accompany me, but I never get scared, because I think a lot of resilience comes from your environment, and it depends on you on how you want to look at the situation. So I have been thoroughly positive about it, and I wish to remain the same.
So actually, that was really inspiring. So I just wanted to say that, okay, yeah, it was really heart touching. So I feel like if the relationship or something didn't work out for you, I think it's everything is for good, right? That's what I feel like.
I do try to take it that well. I mean, I have, honestly speaking, I appreciate what I had with that person. I really appreciate it. I have, till date, I have never, okay, apart from obviously because you are in a shock that something like this has happened, I have never went back and, abused somebody, or, general human reaction. I've never done that, because I appreciate what it was. But the only heartbreaking part is that you're never prepared for anything like this. We talk of lifetimes together. We talk of matching horoscopes and all of that, and I mean, I think it's all crazy. It all comes down to treating the person right when you can. And it's not just my scenario. That's what I want to change the narrative with. It's not just me with whom this has happened. It happens to so many people. And you won't
Right.
believe, since I talk about it on my social media handles, I have so many, young people message me and say that, oh, this has been our story too. This has been our story too. I was left after 5 years of relationship. I was left after marriage. I had childhood cancer, and like nobody wants to marry me. So I think this is not fair, because considering but again, it depends on the kind of person. If the person in front of you does not have that kind of strength or that kind of inclination to take care of you, um it's really heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
you really can't take. I think what I tell other people is, uh, how people treat us is on them, it's not on you. If they don't have that strength or that intention to take care of you, you can't force them to do that. So it's just that. But I think people need to be more sensitive that uh, this cancer or any ailment, it can come to you at any stage in life. So you really can't, I don't know how to put it, but you really can't put a, check mark on, okay, if this is all correct, then you can be with me, otherwise not.
Yeah.
Especially I think it's tough for females in the country. I'm not saying that boys don't have a tough time, but I think in the females in the country, I think because the social structure is such, that since the very beginning a girl is born, the parents, I think what I felt, the parents have this in mind, okay, we'll get her married at one point. And if something like this happens, what I've felt is that, parents are somewhere very heartbroken, because my parents have never had, you know, because of the society they live in, they never had an extreme reaction to my relationship getting off, because somewhere they knew that, this will not happen. So
Yeah.
they do feel sad about it, but the society is such that they didn't like, I would say they expected this to happen. Honestly, they expected this. They knew that very, very few percentage of people would actually, support in such a condition.
In
It's
such a
not every,
condition.
every it's not everybody's cup of tea, and people don't like uncomfortable situations, and that's what it has been. And it's very sad for the parents, I think, especially of girls in the country. It's very sad. because they think that, like, most of the society thinks that the ultimate goal is to get married and, settle up with a person and produce kids, which unfortunately many of us can't. So when that is lost, I think people think that the sense of purpose is lost in life, which I think is not true. It does. I mean, I'd be lying if I say that I don't feel bad about not being able to, have kids of my own or whatever. But it's also true that I've been pretty strong in my upbringing. My upbringing has been very, very progressive, and I myself have been very progressive in my life. So I'm very, very open to, taking care of a child who's not, coming from my stomach, so my
Yeah.
tummy. I am very, very capable of adoption if that happens in the future, whenever it happens. So I've
Yeah.
never felt that, I should be hinged upon a genetic child to be a mother.
Mm.
I think God has been kind with me, and I have that kind of emotional inclination to be taking care of anyone, any child that needs my support. So that ways it's okay, but not everybody honestly has that kind of environment to support them. So I speak more about it so that people get sensitized, that it's really, really okay if you want to have children. If not, if by biology, like what happened with me, if you're not able to, it does not really define you as much.
Mm.
And it's really onto you of what you make of your life. It's difficult, really. I don't want to dismiss the bad days. I don't want to dismiss the healing journey. It's not always the best, it's not always positive. There are days when you're feeling absolutely top of the world, and there are days when you are not. So I think we should appreciate all the good and bad days. And I think it's a difficult journey. It requires a lot of, emotional support, because treatment is done, you know treatment is done, but the trauma that stays with I think it requires constant attention and constant addressing. So if you have good friends, if you have a good family who understands and supports you, I think I feel blessed in that situation. So it's been great. I mean, my social circle, my work family, my immediate friends, my extended friends, everybody has stepped up whenever I felt low in life, whenever I have faced some kind of fear. So
Mm.
they're there to listen to me. I think more than anything, I think a cancer patient requires, patience of people, because
Right.
it's not like, you can forget it in a day. Okay, now it's done and dusted. It doesn't happen like that. And so must be the case with a lot of people struggling with this disease. It's a lot of emotional trauma. It's a lot of fear of you might be not here next year. I mean, a lot of people have that fear, because you can't
Yeah.
fight against biology at one point. So processing that, moving ahead with that, embracing that thought, it can be like a lot of emotional and a lot of emotional effort, I think. So if the right kind of support, if you have from your near and dear ones, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, that is that. Any
Right.
specific
Actually.
questions, any?
So, did you join any support groups during the treatment process?
um, Absolutely, Annie. So one thing that I realized while all of this was happening is that I was a very specific case of a young age endometrial cancer. And what I realized was that, while, like I said, the doctors were not prepared of expecting such a cancer in a young patient. So I did not find any Indian support groups in this regard. So there
Mhm.
wasn't like enough literature available on the internet, from an Indian context, of course. So there were no support groups. I could not really find anything, not how, whom do I speak to. But uh, what did I find was that there was this group, this an American group, young endometrial cancer support group on Facebook, but it's run by few Americans. So it has about, I think, 2,000 members. So that's where I think I found all my support and all my questions answered, and just basic
Mm.
sharing, I think, because all those females over there are really young, and they unfortunately they've also been in the same situation. So I think what needs to be done is that we have something from an Indian perspective also, for Indian females to be able to speak about it. Our society really does not encourage people to talk about,
Right.
basic infertility issues, PCOS, PCOD. All of this is just so shamed. I know why we are sitting in 2021. Why is that shame around? Things are changing, of course. I think our generation is pretty much open about talking about all these things, but then you also have this influence of your parents and, outside, and then you
Yeah.
don't want to, I mean, they tell you to shut about a lot of things. So I think what we can do is to create like such support groups for our Indian women also. I am actively trying to do that through my page. So I've created this page on Instagram called Bol Sakhi, which means
Mm-hmm.
speak up friend. So it's basically just encouraging people to talk about any such issues and be a support to each other. I talk about my cancer
Okay.
journey. I talk about signs and symptoms. Just talk about my general, how am I coping through this entire ordeal. So I'm just trying to change the narrative from an Indian perspective. I am hopeful that more people would be able to talk about these things, and just general awareness, so that people don't sit on their symptoms. And a lot of times, females only tell each other that, it's okay, it's normal, your periods will get fine. Some happens to sometime, so it happens to me also sometimes. So I want to break that chain, not to normalize irregular periods or heavy bleeding or any kind of symptoms. So let's not tell each other that it's okay, because sometimes it's not okay. It's not okay. It could be something as serious as cancer. So we should push each other for checkups and not really sit on it. So I think just change that narrative. Tell people that, through Bolsaki, I also want to, so people should openly talk about such things. I see absolutely no shame in all this, and this is absolute nonsense that we have to hide these things, not discuss it. I know people are not comfortable, but sometimes I think, with cancer patients especially, when you're able to share your story, it somewhere, makes I don't know, that's my way of, I think, coping up, that as much as I can speak about it, and somewhere helping others in a way to educate them, it just helps me deal with my own journey a little better. Some people do not want to talk about it, but there are also some that were not allowed to speak about it. So it gets very heavy for them, because they can't tell the world that there is something going on with them. So I want to encourage these talks. I encourage this conversation. And it's a long way to go, honestly. People are very scared, and they're scared that they won't be supported. Their partners will leave them, their families will not support them, and they have to go through this all alone. But that's not the case. I think the more I speak up, I think somebody would get that, I think, courage to speak up at some point and take care of their bodies in some way or the other. So that's how I think I've been trying to make meaning of my own journey. Yeah.
So one last question will be like, if you want to sum up your journey in one sentence, what would that be?
Um, okay, so I think it's been absolutely empowering. It, it's absolutely empowering, because I got to know myself as a person. I could actually appreciate my own strength. I did not know that I had it in me to face something like this all alone, of course with the support of my parents, but it's a lot of lone journey as well, because you only understand what's happening with you. So I have really discovered another side to me, which is absolutely strong, and I'm hopeful that I will make a meaningful life of me ahead. So that's that. And to all the cancer patients, I think you guys give me a lot of strength. Like a lot of me is going forward, looking at others' journey, others' resilience. So I'm always looking up to you. Dimple, I would want to thank her for doing what she's doing. I mean, she's one of the biggest inspirations I think I've seen in terms of caregivers, because a lot of patients like me, they know they lose all the emotional partner support. I mean, I think at some point your partner support means the world to you, and she's been an absolute epitome of making sure that she stood by her partner in a way that most people can't even imagine. So a lot of thanks to her for creating that kind of inspiration and creating that kind of stories in the society for to look up to. So thank you so much, Dimple. And keep up the good work, guys. I keep on seeing your posts everywhere, and it's such an absolute wonderful delight to see that people are actually being helped. It's being more talked about, and they're getting the right kind of support, whether it's in terms of the medicines, the treatments, or any kind of emotional support that they need. So please keep up the good work, and I hope that I can get to meet you sometime in person, and of course share your journey with the larger audience. So that'll be great.
Thank you, Prakshi, for the wonderful session. So I'm pretty sure that this will inspire more people out there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Annie. It's a pleasure.